din dinna takadin dinna takadin dinna tatakita takadina tatin dinna tatakita takadina takadin dinna tatakita takadina tatin dinna tatakita takadina takadin dinna tatakita takadina 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 tatakita takadina tatakita takadina tatakita takadina ginnatum tatakita takadina digginnatum tatakita takadina tatakita takadina tadigginnatum tatakita takadina tatakita takadina tatakita takadina ginnatum tatakita takadina digginnatum tatakita takadina tatakita takadina tadigginnatum tatakita takadina tatakita takadina tatakita takadina ginnatum tatakita takadina digginnatum tatakita takadina tatakita takadina tadigginnatum tatakita takadina
धर्ममर्त्यं यशस्यं च सोपदेशं ससंग्रहं भविष्यतश्च लोकस्य सर्वकर्मानुदर्शकं सर्वशास्त्रार्थसम्पन्नं सर्वशिल्पप्रवर्तकं नाट्याख्यं पंचमं वेदं सोतिहासं करोम्यहम् एवं संकल्प्य भगवान् सर्वान् वेदानुस्मरन् नाट्यवेदं ततश्चक्रे चतुर्वेदाङ्गसम्भवं जग्राह पाठ्यं ऋग्वेदात् सामव्यो गीतमेव च यजुर्वेदादभिनयान् रसान् अथर्वणादपि वेदोपवेदैः सम्बद्धो नाट्यवेदो महात्मना एवं भगवता सृष्टो ब्रह्मणा सर्ववेदिना ब्रह्मणा सर्ववेदिना ब्रह्मणा सर्ववेदिना
takadipi takajunnu takadipi takajunnu takadipi takajunnu takadipi takajunnu tadimi tajunnu tadimi tajunnu tadimi tajunnu tadimi tajunnu tadadim tajunnu tadadim tajunnu tadadim tajunnu tadadim tajunnu tadim tatajunnu dim tatajunnu tadim tatajunnu tadim tatajunnu takadipi takajunnu takadimi takajunnu takadakadam 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 takadakadam
Thank you very much for that absolutely exhilarating performance. The grace, the beauty, the coordination, absolutely fabulous. I think Nagananji, the co-chair, has a small gift and a token of our appreciation. And if you could be so kind to accept it. May I request our keynote speaker, Ram Guha, to just join me on the dais. Thank you very much, Ram, for coming across and to speak to a bunch of lawyers and judges. Ramchandra Guha needs no introduction for most of you here in this audience. He's a sort of a polymath, he's a historian, he is a public intellectual, he's a biographer, he's a great commentator on our times, alerting us to flaws in our system and to directions which we should take. I first heard Ram in 1987 when I was a student at Berkeley and he was visiting, and his area of focus at that time was forests and ecology. And he's written a brilliant book called Unquiet Woods. And I was, of course, completely enraptured by the presentation which he was making at the university. And thereafter I've had a number of occasions to listen to him on subjects as varied as cricket, on politics, on Gandhi, on the environment. And so with that very brief introduction, I request Ram to share with us his thoughts on why Mahatma Gandhi remains relevant today. Ram.
Thank you, Shyam. Thank you all. I'm going to begin by asking you to imagine or just picture a building you know, most of you know very well, which is the magnificent Gothic High Court of Bombay, where Shyam first started his practice. Several of you would have, practiced. It's had a great record for the lawyers as well as judges it's produced. Now, I go to Bombay often. Although I live in Bangalore, Bombay is my favorite Indian city. And when I go to Bombay, I usually stay in that part of town because the archives are located in Elphinstone College. And on my morning walk to the archives, in the evening going back home to wherever I'm staying after a day spent looking at files, I pass the High Court. And I always offer a silent prayer when I pass the High Court for the great good luck of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi having been a briefless barrister there. Now, Gandhi, I think to an audience of distinguished lawyers and jurists and legal scholars, can I think as fairly be described as the most successful failed lawyer in human history. And we should be grateful for his failures. In the first volume of my biography, Gandhi Before India, I describe how he failed. But had he succeeded, I would not be speaking to you today. So let's thank the Bombay High Court for not allowing Gandhi any kind of career as a barrister there. Now, before I get to my talk, a brief postscript. Of course, later on, he went to South Africa, where he became a successful lawyer. Partly because there was a monopoly. He was the only Indian lawyer catering to 150,000 Indians. And I'm sure some of you in this audience, regardless of your ethnicity or nationality, would envy him that monopoly that he exercised. Okay, now, but I'm not here to speak about Gandhi the lawyer. I'm here to speak about Gandhi in other respects. He's been dead 75 years. It's more than 150 years since he was born. Why does he matter still? Should he matter? In this talk, I'm going to offer to you 10 solid reasons why Gandhi, his life, his example, and his ideas still matter to us in what is now the third decade of the 21st century. The first reason that Gandhi matters to us is that he gave India and the world a method of resisting unjust authority without using force. Some of this came from his respect for the law, though occasionally he transgressed the law in standing on the side of those oppressed and discriminated against. But his technique of non-violent resistance, to which he gave the name Satyagraha, the force of truth, was opposed both to armed struggle, that's well known, that he rejected the use of force to bring about social change. But he was also opposed to polite pleas and petitions. For example, if you are in a position of feeling discriminated against, for example, the Indians under the British Empire or the Indonesians under the Dutch Empire, one way of articulating your grievances, asking for better treatment, was to write long petitions to the authorities. Now, Gandhi was opposed to that too, because that had been tried by successive generations of Indian nationalists before Gandhi, not least his great mentor Gopal Krishna Gokhale. So Satyagraha used collective civil disobedience. You broke a law, but always peacefully, collectively, but peacefully. Now, this technique of non-violent civil disobedience was, of course, first tried by Gandhi in South Africa in movements in 1906, 7, and then 1913-14 against laws that discriminated against the Indian community in South Africa. It was brought to him, that same technique of civil disobedience was brought to him in India, where he first tried it in localized contexts among peasants in Champaran in Bihar, among workers in Ahmedabad, before actually launching several all-India mass struggles based on the principle of non-violence. It's had many emulators since. You think, of course, of Martin Luther King and the civil rights struggle in the United States. But solidarity, one of the less known legacies of, less known kind of followers of Gandhi were some of the activists of the solidarity movement in Poland, who played a critical role in bringing down the Soviet Empire. Even in places like Tibet, in Burma, in localized struggles by feminists, civil rights activists, environmentalists, sitting on a dharna, sitting outside the office of a magistrate or a police officer or a chief minister demanding justice, going on a street protest with colorful, slogans and campaigns, as you see now all over the world, but doing so collectively and non-violently. This is a technique of expressing your concern about laws, policies, practices that are unjust, that bear down disproportionately on disadvantaged people, but doing so non-violently. Interestingly, the idea of satyagraha was first articulated in a movement I beg your pardon, in a mass meeting composed of a few hundred people, like your meeting here, but not in such a wonderful fancy hotel. It was the meeting in the Empire Theatre in Johannesburg, where the Indians under Gandhi's leadership resolved to resist the racial laws of the South African regime non-violently and collectively. And that meeting was held on the 11th of September 1906, 95 years before the other 9/11. And I think it's quite interesting and eerie and symbolic. So we have the choice in the 21st century, as we did in the 20th century, of choosing between two non-violence, two 9/11s, the path of terrorism and armed struggle and the path of collective non-violence. That's the first reason Gandhi matters. The second reason Gandhi matters is that he loved his country and his culture, while recognizing its disfiguring qualities. He was not a jingoist, a xenophobe, a nationalist who believed his country was perfect, that his country, had no deficiencies that could be attributed to its culture or its history. If there were deficiencies, they had been brought by outsiders. In the case of India, today, we have a stream of thought which thinks wholly without foundation that discrimination against women and discrimination against low caste was brought by foreigners. Actually, it was intrinsic to Hindu and Indian society. Now, similarly, in other parts of the world, the idea that my country is perfect, flawless, is ubiquitous among populist leaders across the world. Whether it's Trump in America, Orban in Hungary, Netanyahu in Israel, and that's been true of many ordinary people too. They think it's already somebody else's fault. It's some other country's fault. Our country, its origin myth, tells us that we are perfect, we are immaculate, we are flawless, we are faultless. Now, Gandhi was a patriot who recognized there were some severe problems with his country, particularly the structural discrimination against women and low caste. And hence, his struggle for political freedom was combined from the beginning with his campaign to end the pernicious practice of untouchability and his work for bringing women into public life. I greatly enjoyed the session prior to mine, where the question of gender equality came in different dimensions through the discussion. Now, Gandhi was not a 21st century feminist. By our standards, his feminism was seriously lacking, not least in his treatment of his wife. But if you look at what he did in the context of his own time, if you look at him not with the virtue of hindsight, but in his own context, if you compare him to his own contemporaries, you will see that Gandhi brought more women into the Indian freedom struggle than any other political leader of his time. More than Lenin in Russia, Churchill in England, FDR in the USSR, USA, whatever else. In 1924, that's 100 years ago, Gandhi launched a campaign to have the first female president of the Indian National Congress. There had been one before, who was Annie Besant, who was British. But the first Indian president of the female Indian president of the Indian National Congress was Sarojini Naidu, almost 100 years ago. At that time, imagine the leader of India's premier political party in 1925 was a woman. Well, it was inconceivable in Australia. There were judges here from Australia, or New Zealand, or America, or France, for women to be even chair of that district political committee, the district Republican or Labour or Democratic committee. So that's the second reason Gandhi matters, that he recognized that Indian society was, and particularly Hindu society, was disfigured by serious endemic discrimination against women and low caste, and he worked ceaselessly, if not to end it, at least to bring wider attention to these problems. The third reason Gandhi matters is that while he was a practicing and believing Hindu, he was a Hindu. He called himself a practicing Hindu. He self-identified, to use the current argot, he self-identified as a Hindu, even as a Sanatani Hindu sometimes. He refused to define citizenship on the basis of faith. Gandhi was a Hindu, but his country was not a Hindu country. And he struggled all his life to build bridges between the different religious communities in India, particularly Hindus and Muslims. So that's the third reason that Gandhi matters. In a world in which the fusion of faith and state is taken as granted and natural and important and indeed as valuable by many countries around the world, including in our own region. I mean, if you look at South Asia, you'll see how country after country has succumbed to the delusion that national identity depends on one religious denomination having a kind of predominant status in deciding the affairs of that country. So he was not an unthinking patriot. He was a reflexive, self-critical patriot. He was not what we think of as a proud Hindu. He was recognized that Hinduism had its problems, and to bring Hinduism into the 21st century, these problems had to be addressed. There's another aspect of Gandhi's. If those of you who are interested in interreligious conversations, I urge you to read a book by a great Australian scholar of Belgian origin, J.T.F. Jordan. It's called Gandhi's Religion, a Homespun Shawl. It talks about Gandhi's personal interactions with people of other faiths, how he broadened his own Hinduism by having friends who were Muslim and Parsi and Jewish and Christian and so on, and how that template of interreligious faith, conversation, dialogue, bridge building, what it can tell us about the world we live in today. So Gandhi was not an unthinking patriot. He was a self-critical Hindu. And fourthly, he went beyond his own regional identity. He was steeped in Gujarati culture. You know, he was one of the people who remade Gujarati prose. He was one of the great writers in modern Gujarati. He knew its folklore, its poetry, its myths, its history, but he was not a narrow-minded regionalist. Just as he had space and love for religions other than his own, he had space and love for languages other than his own. And to talk about the broadening of Gandhi's mind, he's moving from what could have been a parochial, provincial caste of mind, typical of most Indians of his generation, towards a more universalistic, cosmopolitan understanding of, or even pluralistic understanding of what India was all about. I think that failure in the Bombay High Court is consequential. Now, Gandhi practiced in the Bombay High Court in the years 1890-91, so 140 years ago. Now, I know that things have changed somewhat in how lawyers get their clients and from what catchment area lawyers get their clients. But let's assume that in 1890, instead of failing, Gandhi would have succeeded as a lawyer in the Bombay High Court. 95% of his clients would have been Gujaratis. 95% of those Gujaratis would have been Gujarati Hindus. And probably at least 70% of those Gujarati Hindus would have been from his Moot Baniya caste. So at work, in the courtroom, at home, all he would have known was Gujarati Hindus of a particular caste. Now, what does failure at the bar do for him? It sends him to South Africa, where his first client is a Muslim, a Gujarati Muslim. So he gets off the ship in Durban in April 1893, and he's met by a Muslim who takes him to his house and puts him up at night. And in the Gujarat of that time, it was inconceivable that a Muslim would have dinner in a Hindu home and spend the night there, or vice versa. Then he starts his struggle a little later against racial discrimination, And the first person to fund the struggle was a Parsi called Rustamji. So he's getting to know and to befriend and to understand and to appreciate Gujaratis who are not Hindus. Then as the struggle continues, the Gujaratis are kind of mostly Hindus and Muslims, are mostly middle-class merchants, risk-averse. They're willing to go to jail once, but not a second and a third and a fourth time. So when the Gujarati stops supporting his movement, the Tamil working class steps forward. Now, as a result of all this, Gandhi's mind is being enlarged in very substantial ways. And when he starts a newspaper to represent the cause of the Indians in South Africa, it's a newspaper called Indian Opinion. And that newspaper, which he starts in 1903, is printed in 4 languages. It needed 4 different scripts. So there's a section in English, because you have to address the white rulers of South Africa. There's a section in Gujarati, there's a section in Tamil, and there's a section in Hindi. I mean, I have not confirmed this, but this may be the first multilingual newspaper in the world. All right, so here is Gandhi expanding his universe. He's a self-critical patriot. He's a reflexive self-critical Hindu. He's a Hindu who befriends Muslims and Parsis and Jews and Christians. And fifthly, the 5th reason Gandhi matters is that he was both a patriot and an internationalist. He appreciated the richness and heritage of Indian civilization, but knew that in the 20th century, no country could be a frog in the well. It helped if one saw oneself in the mirror of another. And his own influences were as much Western as they were Indian. If you look at the moral and intellectual influences on Gandhi, you start with Gujarat. And you actually start in Gujarat with a Jain philosopher called Raichandra Bhai, who in some ways, Gandhi met when he was a young man and exchanged many letters with. He was a profound influence on Gandhi, and from whom Gandhi learned the virtues of selflessness, tolerance, and a simple life. Then you move from there to his next mentor, who's Indian but not Gujarati, who's the great, whom I've already mentioned, who's the great Maharashtrian social reformer Gopal Krishna Gokhale. And Gokhale, in 1905, started a Servants of India Society, the first social welfare organization in India that did not bear a religious denomination. It was not Hindu like the Arya Samaj, it was not Muslim like the Jamaat, it was not Christian like the YMCA, it was an inclusive social welfare organization. And Gokhale was absolutely committed to the abolition of caste and gender distinctions. So he's moving from acquiring a Gujarati moral exemplar to a Indian but non-Gujarati political exemplar, and further on to learning from Western thinkers, Tolstoy, Ruskin, Thoreau. So that is part of Gandhi's really distinctive vision, that it is inclusive within and inclusive without. Now, I've given you 5 reasons why Gandhi matters, and I'm going to pause. First, I'll just briefly rehearse these 5 reasons. Gandhi gave India and the world a technique of resisting injustice without using force. Gandhi loved his country and his culture while recognizing its disfiguring qualities. Gandhi refused to define citizenship on the basis of faith. Fourthly, he refused to define even nationality on the basis of language. And finally, he was both a patriot and an internationalist. Now, before I go on to my next set of 5 reasons why Gandhi matters, I'd like to pause and to suggest that without these 5 aspects of Gandhi's legacy, the LAWASIA conference would not be meeting in the Indian city of Bengaluru today, 75 years after Gandhi's death. First, because Gandhi eschewed violence in favor of dialogue, India became a multi-party democracy, not a single-party totalitarian state or a military dictatorship. Second, because people like Gandhi and Ambedkar, the great visionary who helped write India's constitution, emphasized caste and gender equality. These principles of social justice were encoded in our constitution. Because he emphasized religious and linguistic freedoms, we did not go the way of Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Pakistan was divided, was created on the basis of religion and divided on the basis of language, and Sri Lanka experienced a several-decade-long civil war because of the conflict between a Sinhala Buddhist majoritarianism and a Tamil minority radicalism. So I'm not for a moment suggesting that it was Gandhi alone who contributed to the creation of an independent India with a democratic and pluralist constitution and political structure. There were many other remarkable leaders. We can talk about, I mentioned Ambedkar, we can talk about our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, whose commitment to Hindu-Muslim harmony was as sturdy as Gandhi's. We can talk about Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who built India's administrative infrastructure, which has kept us together. We can talk about Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, in my view, the greatest Indian woman of the 20th century. By the way, there's a great biography of Kamala Devi that will soon appear, written by the American historian Nico Slate, and many, many, many others. So I'm not suggesting that Gandhi was the only person who helped construct this modern, democratic, pluralistic republic. But he played a central role, a catalytic role, with the others working around him and with him and in collaboration with him. Without his leadership and his repeated emphasis on democracy, cultural pluralism, and social equality, all this might never have happened. I've got to now turn to the other 5 reasons that Gandhi matters, which are perhaps less distinctive to India and maybe of more general relevance. The 6th reason that Gandhi matters is that he was a precocious environmentalist who anticipated that unbridled growth and consumerism could bring about planetary disaster. I could give you several quotes to illustrate Gandhi's precocious environmentalism, but I've got to give you just one. It's again from almost 100 years ago. It's from December 1928, and it's from an article he wrote in his magazine, Young India, in December 1928. So here is the quote. I quote, "God forbid that India should ever take to industrialization after the manner of the West. God forbid that India should ever take to industrialization after the manner of the West. The economic imperialism of a single tiny island kingdom, namely England, is today, namely 1928, keeping the world in chains. If an entire nation of 300 million, which is what India was then, it is now 1.4 billion, if an entire nation of 300 million took to similar economic exploitation, it would strip the world bare like locusts." And I submit to you that India and China are today, along with the West, stripping the world bare like locusts. Now, in this quote, there are 2 critical lines. One is the last phrase, "strip the world bare like locusts." And the other comes early in the quotation I read to you, which is, "God forbid that India should take to industrialization after the manner of the West," not "God forbid that India take to industrialization, full stop." Now, Gandhi recognized, and he says elsewhere, that there are no new worlds to conquer. He says that Europe and America have divided the whole world between them. So he recognized that industrial prosperity in the West, in countries like Germany, England, France, and above all, United States, a model of development that was resource-intensive, capital-intensive, energy-intensive, was made possible by colonization, by access to the resources of many continents and countries other than their own. So today we are well aware, partly because of climate change, that global consumer society, that, is really stripping the world bare like locusts. It's impossible for the earth to sustain a situation in which every Indian has the lifestyle of an average American. Right. And the other ways in which Gandhi anticipated this, he talked about the dangers of chemical agriculture. He talked about the importance of decentralized economic growth, where local communities would have control over their own resources and so on. So that's the sixth reason Gandhi matters. He was a precocious environmentalist. The seventh reason Gandhi matters was his ability to grow and evolve as his career progressed. I mean, this is a lesson to, people in every profession, in the law, in the judiciary, as doctors, as teachers, as scientists, and indeed as writers, dare I say. There's a quote attributable to John Maynard Keynes: "When the facts change, I change my mind. And how about you, sir?" Now, this is possibly apocryphal, though it's in line with, Keynes's liberalism. But there's an actual quote that Gandhi made in 1934, which I shall read out to you. "I make no hobgoblin of consistency. If I am true to myself from moment to moment, I do not mind all the inconsistencies that may be flung in my face." So Gandhi was slowly evolving, and there are many aspects of his moral evolution, his views on caste, where he was a timid, hesitant critic of the caste system, but when confronted by the radicalism of Ambedkar, he changed his mind and became more radical himself. He was slow to involve women in public life, but when feminists like Kamala Devi challenged him, he recognized that he must do more. But in many ways, the most striking example of Gandhi's moral evolution is his attitude to race. When Gandhi goes to Africa in 1893, as a young man of 24, he was, and there should be no qualifier here, he was a racist. His mind he was receptive to the prejudices of the time. And the prejudices of time in India were, the West is more civilizationally advanced. Indians are below them, but can, with an effort of will and understanding and education, reach where the West is, and the Africans are uncivilized, almost barbarians. And Gandhi even used, in his early writings, the word kafir, which is an extremely pejorative word. So he was a racist who, in his time in South Africa, slowly evolved to becoming a non-racist. And so in 1894, 95, 96, if you read what he says about the Africans, he subscribes to this threefold hierarchy. Europeans are very civilized, Indians are getting to be civilized, and the Africans perhaps can never be civilized. By 1908, he had changed his mind, and in a speech in Johannesburg, he said, every race, every community, should be treated as equal. And by the time he comes back to India, he moves from being a non-racist to an anti-racist. And through the 20s and the 30s, he's in regular correspondence with great leaders of the American civil rights struggle, W.E.B. Du Bois, Martin Luther King's teacher, Howard Thurman, who comes to visit Gandhi in his ashram in 1936. And Gandhi tells him, it is through you, African Americans, that the message of nonviolence and social justice will reach the world. Now, it's very easy to quote Gandhi out of context. There's a whole industry of writers, activists, scholars, polemicists, politicians who made a living and a career attacking Gandhi. It's the easiest way to become famous in India, attack Gandhi, and possibly even the world. And from any perspective. You can show he's racist, he's anti-women, he was a supporter of the caste system, he supported the British. And of course, now when you no longer have a difference between history and myth, but a difference between history and WhatsApp history. The way these rumors circulate, as someone once said, a lie is halfway around the world before the truth has got its boots on. And I frequently, as a Gandhi biographer, I'll get mails from fact-checking sites. Did Gandhi say this? Did he say that? Half the time he did not say that. Half the time he said something which looks awful and reactionary and racist and casteist and patriarchal. But when did he say it? Why did he say it? Did he change his mind? What was the context? That you will never get in 8 words quoted out of context. But if you look at, carefully study Gandhi's views on caste, gender, and above all race, you see how extraordinary his moral evolution was, how he was willing to engage, to debate, to learn, and change his mind. The 8th reason that Gandhi matters, and this is again something that is of absolute relevance, particularly to people in authority, in positions of authority, to chief justices of courts, of heads of law firms, to directors of hospitals, to CEOs of companies. The 8th reason Gandhi matters is that he had a rare knack of making leaders out of followers. He identified talent, nurtured and developed it, and set these people free to grow further on their own. Many of his so-called disciples who flocked to him during the Indian freedom struggle became colossal figures in their own right, contributing enormously after Gandhi's death to the development of Indian democracy, Indian economy, Indian society, even the Indian civil society movement, and so on. So consider some individuals: Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, C. Rajagopalachari, Jayaprakash Narayan, J.B. Kriplani, J.C. Kumarappa, Zakir Hussain, many, many others who are familiar to Indians, who for their contributions to the development of our republic, all were nurtured by Gandhi and then set free in their own domains. The domain could be politics, it could be interreligious work, it could be environmentalism, it could be education, it could be appropriate technology, doesn't matter. The republic was built largely by people who worked with Gandhi and took his ideals forward stoutly, independently, courageously. Now, if you look at this extraordinary ability that Gandhi had of training the next generation of leaders, and you compare Gandhi with who has been some of India's heads of government, not heads of state. I think India has had about 15 or 16 prime ministers. 3 have been particularly influential and charismatic and powerful: Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, and our present incumbent, Narendra Modi. Now, I'm not going to compare these 3. If you want a detailed comparison of the prime ministership of each of these, do look at the new edition of my book, India After Gandhi. But I'm going to just tell you a striking similarity. We tend to think of Nehru and Modi as polar opposites, and Indira Gandhi in a class of her own, maybe opposed both to Nehru and to Modi. But there's one thing that unites them. None of them trained successors. It was all about themselves. I just compare them to Gandhi. Though Nehru was Prime Minister for 17 years, Indira for 16, Modi for 10 already, and he may yet get a 3rd term. Who are the leaders he has nurtured? Who are the leaders that Nehru nurtured, Indira nurtured? And forget the realm of politics. Look at our corporate CEOs, and look at even builders of our NGOs, of our civil society organizations, and how an organization a person founds tends to be identified by that person so completely and so thoroughly that there's no question of a second generation of leaders. So that's the 8th reason Gandhi matters. The 9th reason that Gandhi matters was his willingness to see the opponent's point of view, coupled with his readiness to reach out to them and seek a middle ground. He had an absolute inability to hold grudges. Absolute inability to hold grudges. He had no personal dislikes or hatreds. He had intellectual and political disagreements, but these also he hoped he could resolve through conversation. The beauty of the middle ground. There's a phrase of Gandhi's which at first sight sounds paradoxical. The beauty of compromise. Compromise is supposed to be something wrong, but the beauty of compromise. So Gandhi had no personal dislikes or hatreds. And his language he was non-violent in action in thought and in language. And I think that's something all of us can learn from him. And I was very struck during the pandemic when I was watching the TV after the great American civil rights leader John Lewis died. Some of you would have known of him. He was one of King's closest associates, and he was brutally beaten on that bridge. And then, of course, was a congressman for many, many terms. And there were some tributes to him after he died, and his death to Gandhi came up. People talked about how John Lewis visited India several times, went to the Sevagram ashram, and someone once asked John Lewis, "What did you learn from Gandhi?" And he said, of course, non-violence, of course, interfaith harmony, but also, of course, taking everyone along, but above all, how to disagree without being disagreeable. So I've given you 9 reasons why Gandhi matters, and now I'm going to come to the 10th. And allow me to here read out a few paragraphs of my talk. The 10th reason that Gandhi matters is the transparency of his personal and his public life. Anyone could walk into his ashram. Anyone could debate with him. Indeed, as happened, anyone could walk up to him and assassinate him. What a contrast this is with the security-obsessed lives of other political leaders. Indeed, even of other powerful people in industry and in the professions and so on, where there's always a barrier of secretaries and PAs guarding them from the wider world. The French poet Paul Valéry once remarked that in general, the people hide from each other. In general, the things that people hide from each other are of an emotional or physiological nature: defects, manias, lusts, passions, and superstitions. Among all the public figures of his time or ours, Gandhi was singular in that he exposed his defects, his manias, his lusts, his passions, and his superstitions to the whole world through writings in periodicals that he himself edited and published. And the odd dark thought that he kept for private correspondence with friends or confidants was posthumously and unsentimentally made available to us by the editors of Gandhi's collected works. An English Quaker who interacted with Gandhi closely once remarked, "Gandhiji had no private life, as we Westerners understand the expression. God knows what we would think of other celebrated figures, whether in politics or business, sports, science, or the arts, if he was so directly exposed to the intimacies of their lives and their thoughts and their failures and their anxieties. Beyond Satyagraha, beyond interfaith harmony, beyond environmental responsibility, the ending of the British Empire, and the delegitimizing of untouchability, the practice of and the largely successful quest for truth may in fact be Gandhi's most remarkable achievement." Thank you.
So thank you very much, Ram. And before I wrap this session, he's agreed to take a few questions, if there are any from the audience. They could sort of extend to, I suppose, cricket and environment as well. Okay. Yeah. Do we have a microphone? Yeah. Just please identify yourself and then.
I am Harsh Desai, and like Gandhi, a lawyer from Bombay. I just want to know why Gandhi failed as a lawyer in Bombay. What is your thinking on that?
Well, thank you. I think there were several things. One was that he was, and it's quite remarkable given what a successful politician he was a lousy speaker. He mumbled. He looked down. If you look at somebody, there are 1 or 2 clips of Gandhi speaking, as late as 1931, when he was the Mahatma after he had led the Salt March. He's not like any current political leader, or like me. I mean, I know how to address all of you, right? Okay. Now, I could possibly have been a successful lawyer, though I may not have had other qualifications. So I think he was an indifferent speaker. He was possibly also he did not have the social networks because he came from princely India and moved to Bombay. But above all, I think he was just a bad speaker.
Yes, please, Justice Pratibha Singh.
The way you ended it was simply superb. The quest for truth. And as judges from morning to night, that's what we look for, the quest for truth. How do you think, with your thinking as a philosopher, the quest for truth can actually be achieved?
Can actually be?
Achieved.
So, it's always an imperfect, ongoing quest. I think it's very important, Pratibha, to be open. In that session, one of the judges, I think from Australia, talked about feedback. Right. Now, it may not be possible for a judge, but one of the, for example, I'm Gandhian in very few respects. I'm Gandhian in only two respects. I keep to time, and I answer every letter, even from a stranger. So my email is in the public domain. I want to engage. I want to learn, and often, I think that's something. So conversation, monologues, or having a circle of sycophants who are always telling you what to do. I mean, I can tell you a story. I don't want to take more time, but there's a wonderful story of Gandhi's ashram. Anyone could accompany him on his walk. So the story says, anyone could accompany him on the morning. You could go from any part of India and go on his walk and ask him a question. Gandhiji, but why did you not plead for Bhagat Singh's remission more actively? Gandhiji, why did you? And then he would answer. And if you were too persistent, there's an account, an eyewitness from the account, from the ashram. If you're too persistent and were not giving time for the next person in the line, a very tall, very smelly member of Gandhi's entourage would come close to you, put his smelly face near yours, so that then you would recoil and you would be pushed back and the next questioner would come. Now, but at least you could ask your question. You could ask 10 questions. Now, I think this is a lovely story because it tells you how you can. So, I think that is, always. And, if I mentioned the book on religion, his conversations with Muslim, Christian, Parsi, and Jewish thinkers, I think broadened his Hinduism immensely. There was a question right from the back, yeah.
Yeah, certainly.
You said that the very first point you made, that Gandhiji gave a non-violent alternative to the world.
Yeah.
How do you think Gandhi would have approached the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and whether at all it would have worked? And also whether the leadership of either of the parties might have listened to him, and what his advice would have been?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Let me, so there's your specific question is part of a larger question. Would Gandhi's non-violence have worked in all contexts? Now, there's a wonderful story, which I like to believe may be true, of Ho Chi Minh coming to Delhi in 1956, after North Vietnam had become independent. The South was still under, French puppet regime, and then the American puppet regime. And he came and he was feted by the Indian leaders, and he went to Rajghat, and then he's supposed to have said, if Gandhiji, I admire Gandhiji greatly, he was an inspiration for us as an anti-colonial leader, but if he had been fighting the French, he would have given up non-violence within a week. Now, so the British were, I think the British legal system, there's an element of guilt, of ambiguity, of feeling, I've been held to my own high standards and I failed them. Would it have succeeded against Hitler? We don't know. But I think it is conversations. I think both sides have acted in bad faith. If you go look at the history post-1993, not before, both sides have acted in bad faith. In my personal view, the Israelis more than the Palestinians because they're the stronger party. But that's my personal view, but that doesn't mean I would excuse some of the horrific things that the Palestinian leadership has done. So I think, both sides, clearly, in this case, at least you don't have to listen to Gandhi to have a long-term ceasefire. You don't have to listen to Gandhi. Of course, what Hamas did was absolutely awful, but that kind of reasoning, tolerance, wisdom, how that would come, it's hard to say. But this, of course, to be fair, the Middle East has been caught in the trap of imperial rivalries for a very long time. You know, the Ottomans versus the British, then the Soviets versus the Americans, now the Americans versus the Chinese, you know. So in a sense, it's caught in all that trap, and maybe, you know, Gandhi's of limited use, therefore.
Okay, perhaps I can take one last question. All right. There's a preference for... We're just running a little short of time, so I must bring this to a close.
Yeah. You said the Gandhi has no private life, and the lawyers believe in the right to privacy. Lawyers believes in right to privacy. In today's world, can we sustain without private life?
No, yeah. So that's a very good question. So if you are not in public life, well, there are two things. Private people are entitled to their privacy. So I don't want, you know, a state camera spying on me. So I am not given, unless it's mandatory, I don't give my Aadhaar. I'm not on Digi Yatra because I don't want the Home Ministry having my face. I'm willing to spend 15 minutes, a longer queue. You know, right? So private individuals are entitled to their privacy. But public individuals, how much privacy? What should they declare? And Gandhi was, of course, exceptional in that regard, because he was always, that was a quest for private and personal truth, and a private and public, you know, truth, and a recognition of his failures. But I think this, so I accept that, right, to, you know, obviously, you know, I mean, Gandhi had no private life. My last remark should not be interpreted by an authoritarian state to intrude on all of us, right? Or not just here, it could be the Chinese, it could be the Americans, it could be the Israelis, it could be anyone. But I think it's the question of openness and transparency. You know, if you look at how much dissembling there is by our political leaders, you know, I think that's probably what I was aiming at.
Yeah, sure, Ijaz, yeah, please. Just identify yourself, just...
My name is Ejaz Makbul. In fact, I invited him for the Tarkunde Memorial Lecture. He had been with us. You see, I just wanted to put a small 11th reason for Gandhi. And you know, Allama Iqbal had written a small couplet which he said, "Budkhane ke darwaze pe sota hai Brahman, taqdeer ko rota hai Musalma tahe mehrab, mashriq is east, मशरिक से हो बेजार न मगरिब से हजर कर फितरत का इशारा है कि हर शब को सैर कर." So I wanted to know what universal message which is still Gandhi is relevant for the entire world.
I think most of them. So if I was to single out 8 or 10, I mentioned 10, not one universal message. So I would say environmental responsibility. So when you talk about privacy of personal lifestyle, you know, I was recently reading a book on climate change, endorsed by the world's top tech billionaires, who say technology will solve climate change, which means we can still have our private yachts and host the homes in many continents. So I think this tread gently on the earth, one, be non-violent in word, action and deed, think of inter-religious harmony, and recognize the failures and fault lines in your own religious, regional or national tradition, and above all in yourself. So there are 4 or 5, I would say, broad lessons, not one. I mean, you can't reduce it to just one.
So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to bring this wonderful exchange to an end, but I think it can continue over coffee, because we have a coffee break which follows. Before I sort of draw this session to a close, I was actually reminded when Ram Guha told us about Gandhi's failure as a barrister in the Bombay High Court. I was reminded of a converse instance, and that comes from Nani Palkhiwala's writings. So Nani Palkhiwala was one of our great doyens of the Indian bar. He was the person who argued effectively and persuasively the Keshavananda Bharati case, which gave us the basic structure doctrine. And Palkhiwala writes and says that his greatest benefactor was a lady who pipped him to the post for the lecturer's post or the lecturer's job at the Bombay University, because he was desperate for that job, but a lady sort of outcompeted him, and that's what landed him at the Bombay bar. And then, of course, we have an enormous debt to pay, both, of course, to Gandhi, but within our sphere, Palkhiwala. So may I just bring this to a close by requesting all of you to join me in thanking Ram Guha for this outstanding talk.
sessions in the corridors of this building. There's been much going on simultaneously on the side which may not have been readily apparent to everyone. Member organisations have held bilateral meetings, committees have met and planned their activities for the next 12 months, future conferences have been discussed, memoranda of understanding have been signed. And there's been much going on behind the scenes, both during the conference and in the period leading up to the conference. Specifically, I refer to the work of the team of conference organisers from the Bar Association of India, the LAWASIA Secretariat based in Australia, hard-working LAWASIA committee members who, for whatever reason, may not have presented a paper, but who helped plan various sessions, and the technical and logistical staff who have ensured that everything has gone smoothly on the surface. Without the contributions of all of these people, and I should emphasise without the generosity of the sponsors, there would simply have been no conference. And I believe our incoming President will say more about that shortly. An example of someone who works behind the scenes year after year without ever seeking acknowledgement is Mr. Raphael. Raphael is a practitioner from Malaysia who has chaired the LAWASIA Moot Standing Committee since 2008. I can assure you that this is one of the most challenging and time-consuming roles within LAWASIA, and one which Raphael has performed with good humour and good grace for 15 years. One of the highlights of the closing ceremony is always the announcement of the Moot Awards. And I'd now like to hand over to Raphael to say a few words, followed by the presentations. Raphael.
Ms. Melissa Pang, President of LAWASIA, Mr. Sean Divan, President-elect, and co-chair of the conference, Mr. S.S. Naganan, Dr. Gordon Hughes, Secretary-General of LAWASIA, and Mr. Prashant Kumar, President of the Bar Association of India and the host organization. Ladies and gentlemen, Madam President, it gives me great delight to inform you that this assembly of the successful conclusion of the 18th LAWASIA International Moot Competition that just ended about 2 hours ago. The final rounds, or the finals, was held between the University of Malaya from Malaysia, as well as the Singapore Management University of Singapore. I can tell you that it was riveting. And it was telecast, it was broadcast, or rather streamed via Facebook this morning. Live stream, that is, thank you. Now, at the opening ceremony of the 18th LAWASIA International Moot Competition was held on Friday, Mr. Izomi Suzuki, the 23rd President of LAWASIA, delivered a speech on behalf of LAWASIA at that particular opening. Mr. Wes Hibb represented the panel of LAWASIA Moot judges, which was attended by well over 500 attendees at the opening ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, we had 75 Moot judges in the course of 3 days. 25 of them were from the local legal fraternity, and 50 were from foreign delegates that came from 19 different jurisdictions. This year's edition, as in previous years, the Moot competition would not be as successful without a host university. I'm delighted to inform this august assembly that this year's host, Ramaiah College of Law in Bengaluru, did a stunning job. They not only provided facilities for the Moot competition, but also provided living accommodations for all participating teams and food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for over the course of 4 to 5 days. So we really deeply appreciate Professor Uma Mahesh, Satya Narayan, Principal of Ramaya College of Law. Madam President, LAWASIA International Moot Competition was not envisaged to be just another moot competition, but was set up to invest in the development of young students, bringing together the legal fraternity. Its goal was to foster capacity building and to establish enduring connections, not only between the mooters themselves, but also with the student volunteers of host universities and amongst the moot judges themselves. In the past years, we have observed a progression where some students first got engaged with LAWASIA as volunteers, moving on to be mooters themselves. And it is my pleasure to inform this August Assembly this morning that this year's moot problem was authored by none other than a former participant and the best mooter for the year 2009. So we have completed a ecosystem within this moot competition. I look forward to the day that someone will also succeed me. Ladies and gentlemen, it is therefore with great pleasure that I also mention this, that unlike any other moot competitions, which are typically standalone competitions, the LAWASIA Moot competition is unique in its nature and in the sense that it is always held in conjunction with and as part of the LAWASIA annual conferences. It is crucial to preserve this connection between the moot competition and the annual conference, as it enables the participants to actively interact and engage with the conference delegates who turn up as moot judges. This tangible connection between the conference and the moot competition plays a pivotal role in nurturing and solidifying the bond between the two events. As the curtains come down, it is with immense gratitude that we extend our heartfelt appreciation to our esteemed moot judges who are here with us this afternoon, as well as the host university, Ramaya College of Law. And lastly, but not least, Madam President, I am humbled by your personal support and the support of the Executive Committee of LAWASIA for all these years. Thank you very much.
Ms. Melissa Pang, President of LAWASIA, Mr. Sham Diwan, President-elect, LAWASIA, Dr. Gordon Hughes, Secretary-General, LAWASIA, Mr. Prashant Kumar, the President of the Bar Association of India, Mr. Raphael, Chairman of the LAWASIA Moot International Standing Committee, esteemed and honorable guests, conference delegates, Moot participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of y'all. I'm the Moot Administrator, and I've been given the privilege, and I've been requested, of course, by Mr. Tay to actually announce the winners of the LAWASIA International Moot Competition this year. There will be 5 prizes that will be awarded, and the first award that we are going to give out this afternoon is the Spirit of LAWASIA Team Award. Allow me to read the write-up about this award. We meet to uphold the time-honored values and principles of humanity and celebrate the sharing of knowledge and ideas and of learning, whilst embracing the diversities of the world we live in, believing that man's greatest moment is a moment and time of warm embrace and acceptance for his fellow human being. A new generation of men and women sworn to uphold the cause of justice with character, faith, integrity, and fortitude is the best hope we have. So we hope, without being naive, that the world we live in will change as we choose to embrace change itself. The Spirit of LAWASIA is awarded to the team that best reflects the ideals, values, and virtues of fair play, camaraderie, magnanimity, and generosity in a competition environment. I invite Professor Uma Mahesh Satyanarayan, Principal of Ramai College of Law, up on the stage to present this award, the Spirit of LAWASIA Team Award. Professor? The winner of the Spirit of LAWASIA Team Award for this year goes to Team IN2301, Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam. And the Mooters are Bui Ngọc Linh, Nguyen Hai An, and Nguyen Hong Mai, and their coach is Nguyen Hai Duyen. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Professor Uma Mahesh. The next prize is the LAWASIA Best Endeavor Prize. So allow me to read the citation for this award. This competition is not about winning, but about winners, because as Sir Winston Churchill said, success is never final, failure is never fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. In the past few days, we saw courage in the face of adversity, honor in defeat, and faith in despair. But despite the limitations that some of the Mooters faced, they demonstrated courage, determination, and dignity against the odds. The LAWASIA Best Endeavor Prize is awarded to the team that overcame challenges, difficulties, and obstacles to compete in this competition. It gives me great pleasure to invite Mr. Christopher Leong, past president of LAWASIA, up on the stage to present this LAWASIA Best Endeavor Prize. Mr. Leong. The recipient of the LAWASIA Best Endeavor Prize this year goes to Team IN2303, National University of Management, Phnom Penh, Cambodia. And the Mooters are Tong Sin Min Hien, Pek Mom, and Hun Chompa, and the coach is Nom Pana. Congratulations, National University of Management, Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Thank you very much, Mr. Christopher Leong. The next award that's to be given out is the Ma Wing Kwai Challenge Trophy for Best Mooter. Allow me to read the citation again for this. The Best Mooter Trophy is named after Mr. Ma Wing Kwai, a past president of LAWASIA, in recognition of his commitment to mooting and raising the standards of the LAWASIA International Moot Competition to what has been witnessed this year. The ability to articulate one's thoughts and arguments, condensing disparate conflicting legal authorities into succinct and persuasive arguments in a professional, gracious, persuasive, and congenial demeanor is a very important quality of a lawyer. The Best Mooter Trophy is awarded to the mooter who best demonstrates the said quality. In reaching at its decision, the committee not only took the scores of the individual mooters into account, but also the views and comments made by the moot judges. And it also gives me great pleasure to invite Datuk Ma Wing Kwai himself, the past president of LAWASIA, up on stage to present the Ma Wing Kwai Challenge Trophy for Best Mooter. The winner of the Ma Wing Kwai Challenge Trophy for Best Mooter this year goes to the mooter from team IN2307, Singapore Management University, Singapore. And the mooter is Miss Shriti Harini Janadana. Thank you, Dr. Ma Wing Kwai. The next award that is to be given out is the LAWASIA Trophy for the team with the best memorial. The LAWASIA Trophy, this LAWASIA Trophy symbolizes the support of LAWASIA. Sorry, apologies. This trophy symbolizes the support of LAWASIA in the efforts to promote mooting among law students in this region. And this LAWASIA Trophy for the team with the best memorial is awarded to the team which achieved the highest total scores from the judges for the team's memorials. And for this, I would like to invite Mr. Prashant Kumar, President of the Bar Association of India, up on the stage to present the trophy to the winner. The winner of the LAWASIA Trophy for team with the best memorial goes to team IN2307, Singapore Management University, Singapore. The mooters are Shriti Harini Janadana, Yap En Ling Trisen, and Elisa Lau Jing Xuan, and their coach is Charlotte Sim Yi Xuan. Congratulations, Singapore Management University, and thank you very much, Mr. Prashant Kumar. Finally, we move on to the LAWASIA Best Oralist Team Trophy. The LAWASIA Best Oralist Team Trophy symbolizes the support of the LAWASIA in efforts to promote mooting among law students in this region. LAWASIA observes that mooting has emerged as a critical component of legal education as it provides skills training element for the fundamental skills such as public speaking and the ability to articulate one's thoughts and arguments. The LAWASIA Best Oralist team is the team which emerged as the winner in the finals of the oral rounds of the LAWASIA Moot competition, which took place just a couple of hours ago. The LAWASIA Best Oralist team for this year goes to Team IN 2304, University Malaya, Malaysia. But first, I would like to invite Mr. Sham Divan, President-elect LAWASIA, to give the trophies to the first runner-up team before the champions come up to receive their trophy. So for the first runner-up team, which is Team 2307 Singapore Management University, Singapore, congratulations. Can I invite you up on the stage? Congratulations, Singapore Management University, and thank you very much, Mr. Sham Divan. And now I invite Ms. Melissa Pang, President of LAWASIA, to give out the trophy to the LAWASIA Best Oralist team, which, as announced, is Team 2304, University Malaya, Malaysia. And the mooters are Devon Sia, Raphael Caruso III, and Yo Entong. Please come up to the stage, and their coach is Nevin Vinosh Venudran. Congratulations, University Malaya from Malaysia. Thank you very much, Madam President. And now I pass the time back to Dr. Gordon Hughes.
Thank you. That's always one of our favourite parts of the annual conference. And my congratulations too to each of the winners and indeed each of the participants in the entire competition. I'd now like to hand over to Professor Uma to say a few words.
Good afternoon, one and all. I'm Gnanavi Bopaya, Assistant Professor of Law at Ramaya College of Law, the host university for the international rounds of the 18th LAWASIA International Moot Competition. I request Srimati Madhavi Devan and Ms. Sharada Naganand to kindly join us on stage. I also request our esteemed principal, Professor Uma Mahesh Satyanarayan sir, to kindly felicitate the following dignitaries. Mr. Gordon Hughes, Secretary General of LAWASIA. I take this opportunity to mention that all the mementos are GI tagged handicrafts of India. We at RCL not only promote going local, but also take pride in promoting the artisans and their families. Next we have Ms. Melissa Pang, President of LAWASIA. Mr. Shyam Devan, Senior Advocate and Co-Chair of LAWASIA Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of applause. Next, we have Mr. S.S. Naganan, Senior Advocate and Co-Chair of the LAWASIA Conference. Next, we have Srimati Madhavi Devan. For being part of it. We also have Ms. Sharada Naganand, organizer of LAWASIA Conference. A huge round of applause, please. Thank you, sirs and madams. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm now going to call upon our outgoing President, Melissa Pang, who will sadly say some brief words of farewell. This will be followed by a LAWASIA tradition in which the outgoing President hands over the LAWASIA banner to the incoming President. This has particular significance for me personally for two reasons. First, I was present at the LAWASIA conference in Australia in 1991 when the same banner was handed over by the outgoing President to our incoming President's father, Anil Devan. Secondly, I myself had the pleasure of handing over this banner to the much respected G.L. Sanghi at the LAWASIA conference in Japan in 2003. Melissa, over to you.
Good day, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. This year's theme of the conference is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. In this digital age, we all of us are having tasks and responsibility that need to be addressed simultaneously. I can see we are always on demand. The pressure is there and it's overwhelming. We never have enough time to do all our work or our tasks. So we need to have very good time management. Time is indeed a very valuable resource. But I really appreciate your decision to invest time in attending the LAWASIA conference. I commend you for recognizing the value and the worth of being in this conference. And I extend my sincere appreciation to all of you for making this very wise choice. This gathering has been truly remarkable, brimming with passion, energy, and a shared dedication to upholding LAWASIA's core value: the rule of law, human rights, access to justice. I must give my deepest gratitude to the host organization, Bar Association of India. Thank you, President Prashant Kumar. Also, we have to thank with our hearts the conference chair, Mr. S.S. Naganan. And also another co-chair, Mr. Cheyenne Divine. For putting together such a wonderful, enjoyable conference. And on this note, I would like to say, although this is the closing, let us remember this is not the end, but rather the beginning of another chapter. Instead of saying farewell, goodbye, I want to tell you there's a lot of exciting news about LAWASIA in 2024. We have planned a number of conference seminars in captivating destinations: Vietnam, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and on and on. And as we embark on this exciting forward journey, the time has come for me to step down as president and to entrust the leadership to Cheyenne Divine, our next president. I have complete trust in his abilities, aspiration, And I'm certain LAWASIA will continue to flourish under his guidance and leadership. A few days ago, a delegate came up to me and asked whether I will be sad because I'm going. And I told him, no, definitely not. I had 2 very enlightening, meaningful years. Transiting from a hybrid president, transiting from totally virtual to a hybrid president. It is very exciting. I mean, now we enjoy seeing each other, communicating via Zoom or other devices, and as well as meeting in person is also very important. Actually, there's a few people I would like to say thank you. First, of course, to the EXCO, all the EXCO members and our very important advisors. They have given me a lot of guidance and wisdom all along. A special thanks to our past president, Chong Wan Choi. My predecessor. He is the first entirely virtual president, facing the most difficult time in my lifetime, at least, I mean the COVID period. And he's leading LAWASIA to furthering its mission and also embracing how to use technology to continue our mission. A big round of applause to him. And I must say, I think when he passed the presidency to me by passing me the banner, it was all done virtually on Zoom. The next person I really will have to thank and give my deepest appreciation is Dr. Gordon Hughes. Our past president, as well as existing Secretary General, his unwavering support and dedication in leading the LAWASIA Secretariat. It is a most difficult task, I must say. The role is demanding and requires a significant amount of time and effort. It's worth noting, he is undertaking this difficult task on a pro bono basis in order to ensure the financial viability of LAWASIA. On behalf of EXCO, we extend our deepest gratitude for his selfless contributions. His commitment exemplifies the true spirit of pro bono service, and it is an inspiring example to all of us. And thirdly, I have to thank Raphael. Wow, he's the chair of the LAWASIA Mooting Standing Committee for 15 years. Organizing the Moot competition is never an easy job. But this is so important. The Moot competition have grown. Now we are covering 60 law schools from 30 jurisdictions. That is amazing. He's really putting our Moot competition from height to new height to another new height. I think it's very important for nurturing young generation of lawyers. They see the significance of law and justice and the importance of effective communication skills. And also, there are opportunities for mutual learning among students. Last but not the least, I would like to share a Chinese saying. 離開舞台不代表結束演出，而是為了其他人留下空間和機會。It means leaving the stage does not mean the end of the performance, but rather creating space and opportunities for others. There is a saying within LAWASIA. Once a LAWASIA family member, forever a family member. Brothers and sisters, I cherish you all. May our shared commitment drive us forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, and congratulations on an outstanding term as President of LAWASIA. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you. And I now have great pleasure in inviting the incoming President of LAWASIA, Mr. Shyam Devan, to say a few words. I've been saying all week that we mustn't forget the banner, and of course I did.
Thank you very much, Gordon, and thank you very much, Melissa. Well, as I obviously have a fair set of announcements to make, but before I do so, I'm hoping that some of you had the time to visit or are planning to visit the beautiful ruins of the city of Hampi. And Hampi is in the state of Karnataka, and it harks back to about 1330, when the Vijayanagar kingdom was the dominant kingdom and the empire in this area. And last year, Vijayanagar sort of translates into Victory City. And last year, Salman Rushdie came out with a brilliant novel, which I'm sure some of you or many of you have read, called Victory City. And in Victory City, which is essentially about Vijayanagar, but fictionalized, there is Pampa Kampana, who is the narrator of the story and the tale. And in her telling as to how this great kingdom arose from almost nowhere, she sort of imagines it. And when she imagines it, the stone walls start rising. And then she peoples it. And after she peoples it, each of those individual citizens have to be supplied a memory and a history. And so she suggests it into each of one of those citizens. And in the fictional telling of Salman Rushdie, that is how the empire or the great institutions of Vijayanagar came about. Now, I quite realize that as far as LAWASIA is concerned, while many of us, like Pampa Kampana, might like just to wish it into work and wish the institution into existence, that's not going to happen. And that hasn't happened. And I find that I am sort of following a chain of many, many distinguished past presidents who are here in the audience. And I thank them for their efforts. many office bearers, both off the stage and on the stage, and I recognize their enormous efforts in building LAWASIA as an institution. We date back to 1966, and we're going to take this story forward, and I will do my best in terms of our shared goals, and those, of course, remain upholding the rule of law, human rights, constitutionalism, and extending the footprint of values which we really cherish, including diversity. So that's going to be my task, and I'm happy to inform you and share with you that it's going to be a lot easier because we have a very competent set of not just the Secretariat, which I will recognize in a moment, but also enormously industrious executive committee members, vice presidents. And under their guidance, let us hope that we can move forward from strength to strength. Now, as I hark back to my role for a moment as conference co-chair, and here it's my absolute proud pleasure to recognize by name, but only by first name, some of the individuals who've contributed very, very handsomely. And I'll go through a quick readout. There's Uday Aditya, Rongon, Arpit, Aparna, Anshula, Riya, Yashwardhan, Adit, Sudipto, Vinayak, Andrita, Samir, Aishani, Nidhi, Shana, Magda, Gordon, Melissa, Sharda, S.D. Sharma, and Subodh. So could I request all of you to sort of join and acknowledge their enormous contribution. And I know some of them have taken a flight, but those who haven't, and if I mentioned your name, may I request you to just come over onto stage so that we can please recognize you in the traditional manner and with, of course, a photograph. So please do come on stage. And while you make your way, and these are two sets of teams that I want to recognize because I don't have all the details before me. The team of volunteers and the Moot Court team. So would they also please come up on stage so that we can recognize them and acknowledge them for their enormous effort over the past several months. Yeah, come along. So I'm just going to do the honors. So none of this would have been possible but for the sponsors who contributed very handsomely in supporting this effort. So may I recognize the platinum sponsor Embassy Group, Our gold sponsors were Divya Sri, Zolvit, Siddharth Singh and Anand Singh. The silver sponsors are Just Law and the Hong Kong Bar Association. Our conference partner, Mohan Law House. The gala dinner sponsor was Ritz-Carlton, Bangalore and the Nitesh Group. And the Moot Court sponsor was MS Ramaiah College of Law. I have great pleasure in announcing and recognizing the conference session sponsors, Gandhi Law Associates, BCP Associates, Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas, Wipro, Madhyam, and International Council for Conflict Resolution, the Law Society of Hong Kong, Chandiok and Mahajan, advocates and solicitors. The lanyard sponsor was Trilegal, refreshments and the tea sponsor, which kept us going with that excellent filter coffee, was Kaitan and Company. The conference travel and tour partner was On Time Travels Private Limited. The conference brochure sponsor was Singhi and Company. The event partner was Fast Corp. And should we just recognize all of them with a round of applause? I think all of you have been receiving a newsletter at least twice a day. And here I would like to especially acknowledge the Supreme Court Observer, who was our lead media partner and have done an extraordinary job in capturing the events of each session. So with that, I'm very grateful to each one of you. I know you've traveled great distances to be here. As Melissa mentioned, you've set apart time to participate in this LAWASIA conference. And in many situations, I realized that the visas came in very, very late. But thank you for your presence. It's been enriching for all of us. And it's given us the inspiration and the push to endeavor to do even better the next time around. So thank you.
Thank you, Shyam. There remains only one final item on our agenda for this conference, and that is to reveal the venue for the 2024 conference, which I know you're already looking forward to. Now, it's probably the worst kept secret in the history of LAWASIA. But I would like to invite Karen Chia, President of the Malaysian Bar, to come up and make the announcement.
Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to announce that the LAWASIA Conference 2024 will be held in Malaysia. We at the Malaysian Bar are absolutely delighted to host all of y'all, the LAWASIA family, in Malaysia next year. The last time Malaysia had hosted a LAWASIA conference was 15 years ago, and we are absolutely excited to be able to play host to all of you all again. So, without further ado, I'd like to show you a 2-minute presentation on our video. Please spare me your 2 minutes. Thank you. I look forward to seeing all of you all in Malaysia next year. Thank you.
And with those words, looking forward to seeing you in Malaysia next year, we now conclude this conference. Thank you.